So, hello everybody, and welcome to the no intro show, No Pad Sports Talk with JD and Steve. And I am Steve, and my brother over there with that disheveled face of total disgust. Even though he just purchased a card, a Riley Green rookie card that he just sniped from somebody on eBay, and this is the look he still got because, well, we don't have our intro. Which doesn't bode well for our outro for all of those that are still they're going to listen to the whole show.
Yeah, it's really disappointing. But look, this is disappointing. It absolutely is. But you know what's not disappointing? Our Detroit Lions.
It's the Detroit Lions. That's right. Got my Honolulu blue on today. Got a little representation here, right? Feeling pretty good about myself. It's not Lions apparel, but it is definitely the right color.
It is the right color. And I am saving my favorite Lions shirt for tomorrow. We are going to be streaming live, so, tune in because it's going to be a lot of fun. We've actually had quite a few people asking us about the live stream if we're going to do it because they want to tune in, and yes, we are. So that's going to be awesome. Anyways, look, before we go into the game and we start talking about the game itself, we've been sending a lot of videos back and forth to each other about the Lions.
Yes, we have.
And
all these people coming out of nowhere.
And that's what I want to talk about real quick.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to say this. Look, everybody out there that's jumping on the Lions bandwagon, thank you. I have no problem with it. Cheer for the Lions. Have a good time, right? I mean, we welcome you, right? We welcome you. I'm going to say one thing, though, about all this. One thing. If Lions end up going to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl, have a good time, but that's not for you. I'm sorry. That if they win the Super Bowl, that's for us. That's for the fans that suffered through an 0-16 season watching every game. That's for the fans that have watched Dan Orlovsky run out of the back of the end zone. That's for the fans that's watched every heartbreak. The Calvin Johnson no catch in Chicago. The Houston Texans running back being tackled, getting up and running in the end zone, and then not being able to watch the replay and overturn it. That's for the phantom face mask at Aaron Rodgers and him getting two chances at a Hail Mary. That's for all of the heartbreaks every Lions fan has ever suffered. That's for us. The first one's for us and only us, but please have a good time with it.
Yeah.
But it's not for you. I'm sorry. I can't.
Well,
I can't.
No, I agree. Look. I love the hype. I love all this hype. People are, they're jumping on the bandwagon, right? They're starting to believe, right? Go back to our week one and where we were at on week one. Where we were at during the draft last April, one year ago. Right?
Nobody,
go back to that date.
Draft.
That's right. Go back to that show and hear what we had to say about what the Lions had and what it was going to look like moving forward. Right? We haven't wavered. Right? We tried to, there were games that we didn't call and say, hey, the Lions were going to win. Right?
Right.
We didn't think they were going to beat Baltimore at all. Right?
No.
We thought they could. I mean, any team can be any team on any given day.
Any given Sunday. Absolutely.
Right? But the problem is that, you're looking at the teams, not you just, Baltimore was the better team. Right?
Yeah.
And we got our butts handed to us, and we came back out the next week, and we proved that we're a good team. And we've been doing that every single week.
And let's go back to that game and after that game, because Lions they got stopped, right, by Baltimore. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even competitive. The game was over first quarter. We know that. But before that game, you had people jumping on the Lions bandwagon saying, "Oh, they're the best team in the NFC, maybe the NFL." right? And they were
Yeah.
just saying, Lions, 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 Lions. I love the Lions. And then as
Yep.
soon as they lost, like I think it was even Stephen A. Smith that was like, they're frauds. That exposed them, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's all of a sudden just like jumped off. Oh no, no, no. These are the typical Lions, normal Lions, you know? And then they came back, like you said, and they just won again. They came out the next game, they won. They got that monkey off their back. They're like, we're not going to focus on this. We're going to go on the next game, and they won.
Correct. Exactly. You know, and that's Dan Campbell's been preaching that. You know, he's his locker room speeches post game are just, to me, are inspirational, right? Like you can feel the emotion through a camera that he has for this town, this team, the state, the fans. Like you can feel it from him, right? And I just, you can't not love a guy like that, right?
Well, you know, no, you're right. Excuse me. And I think that's been the biggest, and we talked about this before. This is not, I'm not saying anything new. We've said this.
Yeah.
I mean, it starts up top with the ownership.
Correct. Yep.
Ownership group decided we got to have changes, and they brought in Brad, they brought in Dan, right?
Yep.
And they were on the same page. He's done an excellent job in drafting. He's hit on just about every draft pick as far as even them just, you know, getting playing time. Yeah. Dan Campbell, though, he's the motivator. I was watching and I think I might have sent it to you too, the Kelsey brothers. They were talking about the win when they beat the Rams, and they were talking about like how inspirational Dan Campbell is, you know, and how he's always, every time he opens his mouth, there's just something more inspiring. And this is coming from the Kelsey brothers, you know.
Exactly.
And, so no, Dan Campbell, even though we got a lot more talent in here because of Brad, but Dan Campbell and his staff being able to change the culture, that's been the biggest problem. Lions have had a losing culture for so long that it was hard to get that stink off. And I compared it to a skunk before in one of our previous episodes. You know, getting a skunk stink off. And that's getting the losing stink off. And
it is.
Somehow Dan Campbell, over the course of 3 years, improving every year, has done it. He's changed the culture.
Absolutely. And it's just been phenomenal to watch, right? Like, when you go back 3 years ago in March when he got hired, right? And the press conference that everybody talked about, this guy's just some hooligan coming off the street, and he thinks, right? But the people who knew Dan Campbell, right, knew what he was saying, right? Like, people who played with Campbell, right? His friends, like those people understood the words that Dan was saying. And in the end, the team began to understand what he was saying. Right? And that belief went from 3-14, you know, to a winning record, a 9 what was it?
I think it was 3-13-1, wasn't it?
3-13-1. That's what it was. 3-13-1. Then it was 9-8 to winning the division.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In the conference championship. 14-win season when you count playoffs. Right? I mean, those progressions, those steps, is everything that Dan Campbell said the first day he got introduced. Everything he has said has happened. And that's because the team bought in, believed in him, you know, even when it sounded crazy, believed in him, and said, let's go do this thing.
And, you know, we've anybody that's a big fan of the Lions, this isn't going to surprise you. You've probably seen it before, but the clip of Dan Campbell, you know, saying, you know, when he's talking to his players about practice, and he says, we have to practice with pads. He's like, I know you guys don't like it, blah, 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 right? But believe me, I care about you guys. All I do is think about you. He's like, I have a plan. You just have to trust me, and they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
They did.
I don't know if that was from Hard Knocks. I don't know if it was a Hard Knocks clip or not, but what he said there, I mean, and again, you can feel that emotion in his voice, right?
The passion and the sincerity.
Yeah, right? He says, because you got to remember, Dan Campbell was a player, played for the Lions. Played for the Lions in their lowest point ever.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And to take us to an NFC championship game as a coach. Like, I know it's not finished for him. Right? The NFC championship game is not enough for this team. Right? They have set their eyes on the prize.
Yeah.
Right? And there's just another team in front of them. They're going to play 22 players. They're going to be the 11 on offense and the 11 that come out of them on defense. They're playing those players. Yeah. It doesn't matter what jersey they're in. Doesn't matter where we're playing. It doesn't matter. The Lions are for real.
I mentioned before on one of our shows, I don't know which one, but I just said Dan Campbell is a kind of motivator that a player would try to run through a brick wall for the guy.
Yeah. We keep running into the same wall until the wall either breaks down or he's broken down and can't do it anymore. But he would keep doing it.
He would keep doing it. Like and I think you were the first to mention it, but it's so true. Dan Campbell genuinely cares about his players because when they're hurt, even slightly, you're not playing. Like, we're going to wait for you. And you know how, and we know that Dan Campbell has some big brass ones. We know that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, to sit there and sit some of your best players and just say, look, man, I know you want to play. And we're not talking about game time injuries. We're talking about guys that's been out for 3 or 4 weeks. They're wanting to come back. They're itching to come back. Yeah. And they probably could. But he's like, give it one more week. Just trust me. I want you totally healthy. I don't want you even jeopardizing your career. I don't want to take a chance of possibly, even if it's not a career-ending thing where I lose you for longer. Just stay one more week. I want you healthy. Then you come back. And he cares about his players, man. You can tell he does.
Yep.
And it's not just him because he has a staff full of former players.
Absolutely. Absolutely he does. Right? And they've all bought into what Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are trying to do. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the other piece, the other component to that, right? It's great to have the three-headed monster, right? Ownership, general manager, head coach, right? Mm-hmm. But it's these guys over here, right? If these guys aren't buying in, right, the whole thing crumbles.
Your coordinators down to your position coaches, and even your strength and conditioning coaches, everybody is on the same page.
Yeah, and I said this last week. I would be sad to watch Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson leave, right? Mm-hmm. But they deserve a head coach position, right? And I know there are only 2 left, right? Unless something weird happens.
Get one.
And I don't know that Belichick's going to get one at all.
I think he is.
Nope. He's going to be sitting in the booth either on Saturdays for games, or he's going to be in not in a booth, but a pregame, right? I don't think there's a team in this league that is going to give him the control that he wants.
But so you have to ask yourself then, is he willing to give up some control to remain coaching?
He hasn't been hired yet. I think that answers itself.
All right. I can't really argue with that.
And I say that because I think Atlanta wanted him.
Yeah.
and they didn't hire him. They let him leave the building, I think, after a third interview. I know it was definitely a second interview. Right? So, to me, I think Mike Vrabel is going to end up in Seattle. I think what a great transition from Pete Carroll to Mike Vrabel out in Seattle with the components that are already out there. And I think Ben Johnson's going to end up the Commanders coach. So I get to still have Ben Johnson. It's just going to be with my other team.
We'll see. But anyways, look, ultimately, you know what's cool though is this. I sent you this video too, and the Detroit Lions, their PR people, I don't know if it's PR or whatever, social media people, they reposted this. A teacher down in Florida, I think it was Miami, made a video, and she was talking about the different teams, and she specifically said, "I want to talk about the Lions." And she talked about the Lions and just what you've gone through, right? As far as like they were 3-13-1, blah blah blah, and she went through each thing, and she's like, now listen to Dan Campbell. She kind of played snippets of Dan Campbell's introductory press conference, where he's talking about biting kneecaps and stuff like that, and then she compared, like, okay, what does he mean by this? Does it really mean biting kneecaps, right? And she's going through trying to explain it to her kids. And her kids are elementary school students, and I can't remember. I don't know. Maybe they were like second graders, third graders, maybe something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she's going through.
They might have been older. They might have been closer to third grade.
Okay. And so like she's going through and kind of explaining the situation and asking them their thoughts and everything, and then she gets to the point where she's like, okay, he went 3-13-1, and she's going through his record, and she's like, he improved every year, and she's making a life lesson for these kids, right?
Yes.
Look, you can't quit. Sometimes it'll take years to make improvements, because how long did this take between this, right? It took years, and so the Lions, I don't know, that was pretty cool for me, because it's transitioned beyond just football. Like they're using this in schools as a literal life lesson to teach kids. You have to keep chugging away. You can't quit. I thought that was really cool.
And I think I'm glad you brought it up, because to me, that was probably the most moving moment as a teacher myself, right? Who uses a lot of my life lessons that I use in life stories that I talk to students about, right?
Yeah.
That just meant a lot, because we think about that, like how much it's mean, like how long it's been, right? It's been a journey, right? Everyone says, "Oh, life it's not a sprint. Life is a marathon," right? Well, this is it, right? And it just building that life lesson into that whole piece, talking about a sport and creating this overarching life lesson about never giving up on yourself. Even when the chips are down, even when you're 0-16, don't give up on yourself. Know that you got something more, and you're better than what you are, and continue to and grow and make better and do something different the next time and do something different the next time.
And the thing about it is the Detroit Lions personify that. So the San Francisco 49ers, look, they're a good team. And I'm not going to come out here and tell you the Lions are going to dog walk them or anything like that. No. I'm just telling you the 49ers are a good team, but I don't think the 49ers are prepared for the fight they're going to have on their hands. Because I don't care if you go up 21 points in the first quarter like the Ravens did. This Lions team, they're not going to stop fighting. They're going to hit you in the mouth every single play. They're going to come back, and they're going to fight until the very final second ticks off that clock. The Lions feel that they can win at any point in the game, no matter how far they're down. They feel they have a chance to win this game. So
that's correct.
For 49ers being out there, it's going to be a dogfight. In the end, 49ers might end up winning by 40 points. I don't know. No one knows.
But I'll tell you right now, Dan, the Lions player, they're not going to pull their starters. If they get down like that, they're going to fight tooth and nail, just like you said. You're going. So the clock reads all zeros. and the confetti is shot from the cannon and it's raining down, whether it's maroon and gold or Honolulu blue and gray, doesn't matter. But they're going to play all the way to. They're going to play till that moment.
And that's what's been so good about this Lions team. That's why they've won so many games. You know,
like, how many close games did they win? Right?
Yeah.
Like there were several games where an old Lions team would have given up. And they would not have they would not have done it. They would have not have come back. The Lions are known for losing more close games than anybody I know. Right?
Yeah.
And they didn't do that this year. The close games, they won. Right? So, including the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There were no blowouts.
No.
But they dogfought you all the way to all zeros. And we happen to be having the most points at the end of that. So it's the true blue collar mentality.
Yeah.
Right? That old school, that Grandpa Justice talked to us about blue collar mentality, right? I'm not talking about what people consider blue collar today. I'm talking about that rugged blue collar, that blue collar. Right?
Oh, I hear you. Marching on the line for union strikes and
absolutely
all that
right.
Stuff. Yes,
absolutely. That blue collar, right? That's this Lions team, right? I know. I look at the 49ers and I see them. They're that upper white collar management team, and they are not ready to get smacked, right? And they might come out and they may score 14 points on us to start the game. It says, but don't sit back on your laurels and think that that's going to be enough points.
No.
Because this team's going to come back and score 21. And then it's going to be a game. And then you're going to have to figure out how to come back from that after the momentum has been taken away from you in your home stadium. And they're blaring Eminem on the speakers. Let's go. Let's go. That's how hype I am right now. I'm ready to go.
I know, dude. Like, I can't wait because you know what? In less than 24 hours, we're going to know if the Lions are going to the Super Bowl.
That's right.
I mean, look, I did not dream the Lions would get this far, and all I got to say is this: look, even if the Lions lose tomorrow, let's just say they do. This was a great season. Right?
There's been more hope. Look, there has been more hope in the city of Detroit because of what the Lions have done, right? There's more hope in the state of Michigan because of what the Lions have done. I think there is more hope in the United States because of what the Lions have done. Everybody knows they were 0-16.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's why everybody's coming out of the woodwork and saying, they believe in this team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because not only have they changed the culture within their own building, they're showing a culture and they're shifting it throughout the NFL.
Well, and here's what I'll say. And I think you make great points, but I just want to draw some parallels here real quick, all right? And why the shift for the Lions is so much bigger than what we've seen in the past. Because when we were kids, there were some really, really bad teams, right? Like, for example, the Patriots. They had some pretty good years, but they were pretty bad overall. They were not a dynasty.
They were up and down.
Tampa Bay, again, kind of same thing. Up until, Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks and that defense came in, right? Yep. They were pretty bad. And who could forget the so-called Aints? I mean, there were some really, really bad teams in the NFL. But of course, something happened and something changed.
Correct.
But back when those teams changed, social media wasn't really a thing.
That's correct.
So now you got the social media, stuff spreads, and now the Lions be able to turn this thing around, social media being as big as what it is, that's why you're starting to see like you're talking about everybody jumping on board, everybody knowing the Lions story, not just the Lions story, but Dan Campbell's story, being the 0-16 Lions and then coming back and coaching and taking this team where they're at, right? Like Jared Goff going from being blamed by his own coach as to why they couldn't win the Super Bowl, being booted unceremoniously out of the organization, traded to the crappy Lions team, basically forgotten.
Yeah.
Then you see the former Lions quarterback, Matthew Stafford. He has to watch him win with his team, right? I mean, you're talking about someone that's just got kicked and battered. And that's what Dan Campbell said about the city of Detroit. They were beaten, battered, bruised, etc. Same thing with Jared Goff. Beaten, battered, and bruised. Dan Campbell and his staff helped build Jared Goff back up. And now you hear in the Detroit Red Wings game, Jared Goff, Jared Goff. Today I was watching the Pistons game. Jared Goff, Jared Goff. And you got to hear Dan Campbell at the end of the Rams game when he's giving the game ball to Jared Goff and tell him you're good enough for Detroit.
That's right.
That's what I'm talking about, right? It's those stories that everybody knows. It's those stories that everybody's gravitating to and saying, yeah, we want Detroit to win. We're tired of Kansas City winning. You know, who cares about San Francisco if you're not from the area? You know, it's all about Detroit. People want Detroit to win because they love the story.
That's right. They do. And, you know, I just like you said, win or lose, it's been a storybook season.
Yes.
Right? But it's not the end of our story.
This is just the beginning.
And that's what I want everyone to think about. This is not the end of our story. Right? Think about the young core of people that we have. Right?
Yep.
The people who are going to want to come to Detroit in free agency to come play for a winner. To come play for Coach Campbell.
Exactly.
Right? Think of that as we move forward and what next year could be. Because the NFC North, not going to be a cakewalk, people.
Nope.
NFC North is not going to be a cakewalk. Green Bay, they're for real. Jordan Love and Green Bay, they're for real.
Yep.
Right? I think what the Bears has got on paper, if they can figure out how to utilize Justin Fields, right, and depending on how they work this draft this year, they're going to be for real, right? Minnesota, through everything that they went through this year with quarterbacks, are going to be back next year.
They just missed the playoffs.
Exactly, right? So we are talking about 4 teams next year from the NFC North who are going to be fighting one to win the division, so they know they get a home playoff game. But those other 3 teams, they could be the wild card.
I don't know if there's going to be from top to bottom a tougher division in the NFL next year.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Right? It just so it's just think about this is only chapter 3. I'm going to look at it like that. This is chapter 3 of Dan Campbell, Sheila Hamp, and oh my God, Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes.
I'm looking at chapter 2, but I get your point. I understand.
But it's 3rd year, chapter 3. This is the end of chapter 3. What's chapter 4 look like?
See, I'm looking at it as in you have like chapter 1 is basically Dan Campbell coming in and getting them this far, right? Like that's a build-up process. That's like this is him putting his name, his stamp on the team from year 1 to year 3. That's what I'm looking at it as.
Okay,
right? So
I got you.
And then for me, chapter 2 is more or less the continuation of that success, and then if they don't win one this year, eventually winning the big game, the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
And then chapter 3 would be just maintaining that success, winning multiple Super Bowls throughout the rest of his career. Like I don't know. That's how I see it. But
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
But I do see what you're saying. I don't disagree with it. Just different outlook on it.
Exactly. So, we're at 30 minutes here. Let's talk about
the actual game.
Let's talk. Well, I think everybody knows where our heart lies. So, honestly, I don't care who's playing, who's not. The Lions have shown it doesn't matter who's on their injury report. They've got a guy who's going to be the next man up.
Yep.
Right. I did one thing up. James Houston looks like he's going to be active for this game.
It does.
Right. And that's one of those guys that I think Dan Campbell held out. Yes. Because you know who's going to be hungry in this game if he's playing? Guess who's going to be hungry? And that Lion wants to eat.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that he's wanted to eat since he come off IR.
Yep.
Right? So, let's talk score. Let's go there. What do you think the final score will be?
Look, I'm going to say this. I can't tell the final score yet until I tell you the reason behind it. All right? Okay. The reason behind it.
No. That's fine.
I think that the Lions and the 49ers will be a little bit of a higher scoring game because, San Francisco is going to get theirs. I just believe that to be the case. And I think the Lions are going to match them offensively because I don't think that even though the 49ers have a good defense, and I don't want to take that away, I just think Lions offense is going to find ways because they have all year, except for against Baltimore. We're just going to say that's an anomaly and just take that out. But for all year, they found ways to score, whether it was through Jared Goff passing 44 times and 350 yards, whether it was running for 200 yards on the ground combined between Gibbs and Montgomery. Right?
Yep.
They found ways to score, and they're going to again in this game. And but here's the difference between the Lions defense and the Niners defense. Even though the Lions are giving up more yards per game than the Niners, the Lions are giving up less points per game than the Niners. And I think the way that the Lions defense has worked the last few weeks, especially in the playoffs and specifically about the playoffs, is they are playing a type of defense where it's feast or famine as far as putting pressure on the quarterback, and that's leaving guys out on an island by themselves.
Yes.
And that's caused some big plays to occur.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the 49ers are going to get their points. And I'm okay with it because what ends up happening is over time, that's going to cause the quarterback to make mistakes. It could be at the end of the game like we've seen before. Or it could be,
twice.
Or it could be, during the game, like we saw against Kansas City, first game of the year, Brian Branch, interception, touchdown, and it changed the rest of the game,
Correct.
And I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. So Detroit's defense is going to get the stop when they need to get the stop. So ultimately, I think the final score is going to be Detroit 33, the Niners 30.
Okay. So mine's not going to be quite as high scoring, but I agree, right? I'm going with 27-24 Lions, right? So we're still within the 3 points because I think it's going to be a dogfight. It's going to come down to that end. Now, my 27 points, here's where my twist is. It's not because we scored 3 touchdowns and 2 field goals. It'll be because we scored 4 touchdowns and missed an extra point.
All right, fair enough.
So, I've not been really happy with our kicking game, this year. So we have missed a few. But that's where my 27 points is coming from. I'm just going to give you my offensive guy. It's Sam Laporta. He's going to have 2 touchdowns.
My offensive guy, I love Jahmyr Gibbs. You know that.
Yeah, I do.
I love the Sun God. I'm on Ross St. Brown.
Yep.
But week after week after week, I just keep waiting for Jameson Williams to have his breakout game.
Yep.
Look, the guy is too talented. He runs good routes, and he gives 100%. I haven't seen a lack of effort at all on any of his routes, even when he knows he's run blocking or not getting the ball.
Correct.
And I'm thinking that there's going to be so much focus put on Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's going to be so much focus put on Sam Laporta and so much focus put on stopping the run game that they're going to forget about Jameson Williams. And I'm just going to say, I think this is going to be the breakout game for Jameson Williams. He's going to have over 100 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns, one of which will be from 70-plus yards. I'm calling it now. Jameson Williams, big game, breakout. He finally makes his mark in the NFL. Welcome to the NFL, Jameson Williams.
Wow. Well, if my guy gets 2 and your guy gets 2, how do we figure out he's the best player in the game? Let's go.
You know what? I would love to have that dilemma. So.
Right? That would be awesome as a post game. How do we flip a coin? Heads. All right. All right. Defensive player of the game.
You know, look, the defensive line is going to play a big part in this game. Ali McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson, I'm looking at you guys, right? I think that's going to have to come up big. I picked Ali McNeil last time, and he was disruptive. He didn't have the stats to show for it, but he was definitely disruptive.
Yes.
Aiden Hutchinson, of course, he got his sacks, looked good. But, you know, I'm going to go with the hot hand here. I'm going to go with Iffy. I just think that one thing Lions have been doing recently is they've been doing a lot of blitzing, especially with the quarterbacks between Brian Branch and Iffy. And Iffy, it seems like every time that guy blitzes, he at least causes pressure. But most of the time, he gets the sack.
Yep.
Iffy has been probably the best blitzer that they have. Forget about the linebacker. Every time they blitz a linebacker, it doesn't really seem like they get home. But when they blitz Branch or Iffy, they get home. So I'm going to say it now. Iffy's going to be the guy that gets the interception, and he's going to have a sack. He's going to have a big game. Defensive player of the game, Iffy.
All right. So I'm looking at the Niners offense, and you got Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and Christian McCaffrey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brock Purdy, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I know he doesn't get a lot of credit, and everyone's like, oh, he's not going to be this guy. He's Mr. Irrelevant, right? Blah, 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 blah. I don't care. The kid's done nothing but come out there and win games, right? So Christian McCaffrey is going to eat us up. Now, maybe not in the run, but I think he's going to try and eat us up in the pass. So that's where I think Brian Branch is going to see a lot of Christian McCaffrey.
Well, you can't forget about George Kittle.
No, I'm not. I did forget. I did not mention him, but I'm going to take Brian Branch. I think he's going to be the guy. I think he gets the pick 6.
That'd be awesome. You know, I wanted to mention George Kittle is because I think that might be an assignment for Iffy. Iffy's been a great cover guy, but he's also got size. He's like 6'2".
Yep.
And I just think if you're going to try matching up with George Kittle, who loves to run seam routes, I'm just thinking that Iffy is going to be the perfect matchup for Kittle. And so to see that, I don't know. Again, to see.
Absolutely. So there you go. That's it. Lions are going to go. So before we wrap up, right here, right at the 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Who would you prefer to see have the Lions play in the Super Bowl? Who would you rather have?
I've seen a lot of memes about this.
Okay. Yeah.
Look. Here's the thing. God, it's hard for me to decide. Because I want the Chiefs to lose. First and foremost, I want the Chiefs to lose. Not because I'm afraid of playing the Chiefs, but because I'm tired of the Chiefs being in the Super Bowl. And I wouldn't mind seeing Baltimore in the Super Bowl. And it's not because I think
5 years in the AFC Championship.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And it's not because I think the Lions have a better matchup with Baltimore. I mean, they got blown out 38-3 or whatever it was, 38-6, whatever.
Yep.
It's just I'm tired of the Chiefs. But here's two things about the Chiefs matchup that intrigues me. All right. One was a meme I saw.
If you're gonna take what I'm gonna say, I'm gonna be so upset.
You gave me the first. You gave me first.
I gave it to you. So if you take what I'm gonna say, I'm gonna be mad.
There's two reasons. There's two reasons why I would like to see a Lions Chiefs Super Bowl. All right. One is because Eminem versus Taylor Swift. That meme was pretty funny, right? Like
yes.
Okay. That's a fun one, but
right.
I think it'd be kind of cool to have the last game of the season be the first game of the season that was played. Right? Like the Hall of Fame game where the Lions won, right? And then the last game of the season, the Super Bowl, had the rematch. And I tell you what, about that rematch, you heard all the time, well, Lions wouldn't have won if this guy played. The Lions would have won.
Yeah. Chris Jones wasn't there, and Travis Kelce didn't play, and blah, 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 blah.
Let's do it all over again. We're in a neutral field. Let's do it all over again.
I can't believe you did.
We got the same brain.
I know. We think exactly the same. But honestly, think about that, though. The very first NFL game of the season that was played.
Yep.
And the very last game that was played.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That would be my only reason. Like, that's why I want to see Kansas City, and I want to shut up all of those other people that said we can't beat Kansas City if they had Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. You're telling me two guys on a team of 53 make that big of a difference in a game. Bring it on. I'm ready.
Yeah. Me too. I want to do it. I'd love to see that. Rematch, Lions win again, and for everybody in Kansas City land, just be like, what's your excuse now?
And what I want to see is a 44-10 game.
I'd love that.
Crush them. Dig that hole and throw them in it, and then keep putting dirt on top of it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yep. Never let up off the gas. That's what I'd love to see. Now, would I also love to see Baltimore, and we get an opportunity to redeem ourselves and show we are a better team than that ass whipping we took?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think the hype for me is that Travis it's Kansas City. I want to see Kansas City in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, me too.
I want to see Kansas City in the Super Bowl.
And I hate myself for saying it.
I know.
That would be so much fun.
Absolutely. To be able to, I don't know that in the history of the NFL, I don't think that's ever happened. Yes. The very first game to ever be played in a season by the two teams is the Super Bowl teams.
Yeah.
Because 20 weeks ago, nobody in the world would have said Kansas City and the Lions would have been in the Super Bowl.
No.
And here we are 20 weeks later with that opportunity to happen.
Yes.
Right? I mean, so let's go. Let's go.
Let's go. But we got to win this one. It's got to be the, right?
Yes.
And, man, just they have the chance, man. They're one game away. They can do it. Like, there isn't, I don't think San Francisco is so much better than the Lions. When you hear these so-called analysts talk about it, when you hear the analysts talk about it on TV, it sounds like it's going to be a blowout by San Francisco that the Lions shouldn't even play. Don't even show up.
Yeah.
I'd love for this game just to go in Detroit's favor and just like shut everybody up. It's Detroit versus everyone. It always has been.
Yep.
Let's keep it going.
Let's keep it going. 2 more games. Let's go.
2 more games.
We got one more pregame to do for the Lions. We got one more pregame. Right here, I can feel one more pregame.
All right. So much fun.
Absolutely. Now, I know my brother's going to try and play the outro. I know he's going to. I know he's gonna. So you can see it. You can see the reaction because he doesn't realize I was gonna say that, but he knows. I know he's gonna do it.
I'm gonna try.
I'm gonna try. We're gonna give it the 30 seconds, and we're gonna see what happens. And we apologize for the dead air.
Yeah.
But here you go, everybody.
If you stick with it, you get to see us laugh. All right. Anyways, look again. Just a reminder: we're gonna be doing a live show. Please come join us. I think it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of time, a lot of fun talking with everybody. You can catch us on Twitch or on YouTube. Almost everybody watches us on YouTube. I don't think we had really anybody on Twitch, but who really cares?
Yep.
So just join us on YouTube. Love to see you there. And we'll talk to you then.
Yep.
And there's nothing. Okay, then. Thank you. All
right.
I'll say we'll try to get it working, but I don't think it has anything to do with us. It's this.
You know what? At this point, it's working for us. Let's just keep it the way it is and let it not work. And we're going to go into this game and we're going all through the Super Bowl the way it is.
Sounds good. All right, guys. Again, thank you. Talk to you later.
Take care, everyone.
Lions.
Go Lions.